So my boss doesn't take me seriously because I'm the youngest in the office by a decade and spend most of my time making his life hell. Unrelated problems. Yesterday, he asked me to help him with the problem with the program we use, but he wasn't actually listening to me when I tried to help, so it wasn't working. He asked who the expert on this program was in our office, and I told him it was me. He asked who the expert was within the organization, and I told him it was me. He sent me out of his office saying he would call IT to fix it. So I very patiently went back to my desk, where my phone rang a minute later with IT asking me to help someone who had a problem with the program. The sheer unadulterated joy I felt making direct eye contact with my manager through the glass wall of his office while I answered his phone call will fuel me for weeks.
Yeah, that feels like a Kirk story because it's very contrived and doesn't seem like it would actually happen. And it's just like one of those scenarios you run in your head about how you're going to get back at somebody when they wrong you.
Look, okay, yes, I understand those stories are very contrived, but by the sheer law of numbers, at least one of them has to be true.
Oh yeah, and it's, someone's being smug or contrarian and they come out on top. That was a real Kirk storm.
Yeah, contrarian. Yeah, sure, call me a contrarian.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Two Roommates with a Podcast. I'm Brent. My pronouns are he and him.
Hi, my name is Kirk. My pronouns are they and them.
So, you go.
This
one's your ball game, bud.
All right. So, right before the podcast started, actually, I made a comment about, we were talking about Star Wars very briefly. Episode 4 was the last Star Wars film which had a degree of creativity, according to Brent. Episode 5 was essentially just, fucking, like, Ian Kirshner, and then, whoever... Ivan Kirshner.
Good lord, you're the Star Wars nerd.
But yeah, it's essentially like people who aren't George Lucas. Granted, that was the case with A New Hope. Writing the script and doing the directing and everything. And Brent was like, "Oh, you're gonna make so much money." And then I was like, "Actually, the real way you make money from movies is if you know it's gonna be a hit."
That's key one. Make a hit movie, then you make money.
Yes.
Step 2.
Step 2 is if you know it's going to be a hit, which you know that Episode 6, right? Return of the Jedi. It's going to be a hit.
You don't sign away marketing or licenses?
Maybe. What you do is in the production, you create shell companies. And you say, yes, this company, owned by, please don't look at who actually owns it, is doing this thing, and it will cost us $600,000. And this shell company, please don't look who actually runs that, will cost us $400,000. And you do that with all of these shell companies. And then what happens is the movie costs a lot of money. So all of the money made with marketing and selling the film years later and even up to decades later goes towards paying back those loans, which are usually, owned by like the executives of the company or people who had a role in creating the film. And that's also how you avoid paying royalties to the guy who played Darth Vader. Because we're still selling action figures of him, and he's not seeing a dime.
So they charge... So on the set of the movie to do things, like they contracted out people, but it was to junk companies? Mm-hmm. But then what happened?
Yeah, so the junk companies are actually owned by, like, people in the studio or people who have a role in creating the movie. And because they have a say in that, when the movie makes additional money through, like, they're selling it to another station, the studio sells it to another station or something, a degree of that money goes towards, paying back, like, that junk company. And it means that, like, David Prowse, for example, who was supposed to make royalties on Darth Vader action figures, doesn't make royalties. Granted, he's dead. I think he died, didn't he?
Also, famously, when George Lucas went to make the movie, he specifically didn't like sign away the marketing rights or like the selling of toys. Like he specifically kept the aftermarket stuff for him, which is partially why he's now a billionaire.
Yeah, but this is just So
in the production of the movie, this is how executives made money.
Yes.
Basically from themselves.
And yes. And it does still happen, I believe it happened with some of the later Harry Potter movies, is you know it's going to make a lot of money, so you just say, yeah, this company did such and such a thing for us, and it cost us $1 million. And then, it's getting...
They get a % of the royalties as part of their contract with the studio or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Well, interesting.
Yeah. Which is why, studio executives, you should all be put to...
Yeah, is that really the...
That is the moral!
That's the pressing issue in America, is we need to round up the Hollywood executives. Because they were skimming off the top from Star Wars.
Oh, no. No, I actually... pay the people who do the work an appropriate amount. I don't have a stake on this issue.
Yeah.
Other than I feel it's very wrong, but, I don't think you should necessarily be put to death. Yeah.
So, speaking of shitty media like Star Wars, Naked and Afraid is my favorite white person show. Because, do you know the concept of that show?
Yes, surviving in nature without clothes, right?
To explain to the folks at home, it's a reality survival show on Discovery where they always put a man and a woman, always white, because only white people would do this.
Can be nude.
Where you go, yeah, I want to be naked in the Amazon with no, for 28 days, and I have a knife and a fire starter. And you just choose to get bit by bugs all day. Most of the time they never find anything to eat. So it's basically you just starve for 28 days, which I like that counts as survival. It's like if you run that to not even the long run, just a year, they'd be fucking dead from starvation. But no, the fun white people, they survive it for 28 days and then they ride the Jeep home and they hug each other. My favorite is when it's usually like a pudgy white guy and he really thinks he's hot shit and he's strung up to the girl and you can bring items on the show for survival. So the smart people bring a knife or a fire starter. This was on a Pacific island. So he said, I brought goggles because I'm going to jump into the ocean and catch fish with my hands. Folks, he did not catch any fish with his goddamn hands. And so, his partner, who was actually, competent, I brought a fucking knife. I was hoping my partner was going to bring a fire starter. It's everything is wet on this island because it rains every other hour. We can't make a fire. But at least you could go in the ocean with some goggles. Also, he couldn't just swim with his eyes open.
Yeah. If you brought a knife, you could make a spear. And spears are much better at catching fish than you are. Yeah. I guarantee it.
I think he tapped out. That's my favorite. So you can tap out on the show, which is, when you admit, you're a huge dork and you're in way over your head. Yeah. And then the other person's just sitting there in the tent that's dilapidating, the water's pouring their head at night, and is like, I have to prove something to myself. They always have to prove shit to themselves. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever had to prove anything to myself, let alone stand... Oh, and it's also the desert, fucking cold areas. You don't put them in the Arctic because they're naked. But you'll still get to especially in deserts, it gets 20 below or 20 degrees. Shit sucks. So yeah, just running around naked. No. And also, I think why it's a white person show. There's a certain level of hubris when you go, can you survive in this jungle? as opposed to like the indigenous people that are probably like 10 miles away who are trying to fight for their forest not to get burned down, who've been living there since
and they're
the
like,
dawn of
hey,
time.
we can teach you how to survive here.
But can you live in this hostile environment? we'll film you while you shit doo-doo because you drink bad water because you're so thirsty. That's my favorite one is... I always watch it with my parents. We like to yell at the TV for all their bad decisions. Especially like the one where they're thirsty because they're not able to boil water because they can't start a fire because everything's damp. Is they find a stream and, you know, they filter it through some stones and some dirt and go, it's clean drinking water. And we all go, no. And then one guy turned like yellow because he was experiencing liver failure and his face was turning yellow, and the producer and the medical team had to come and be like, you need to leave.
You will drink bacteria and amoeba that just like live in water. That's all they've ever known is this little thing. For generations before them, the proud brain-eating amoeba family staked out a claim on this soggy rock. And
you come in.
You come in, you snort up that water with your filthy human mouth, and they have no choice but to eat your brain.
No, what... One was a guy found basically like a bushel of mushrooms, and he was actually trying to do basically what he had learned, which was he found the bushel and he rubbed it on his skin to see if there'd be a reaction. Waited a little bit, there wasn't. Then he took a little bit, chewed it up in his mouth, then spit it out. Waited like another however long. He didn't get a reaction, so he was like, and I also visually inspected it, so he decided to go for it and eat it. And then he got super sick and had to tap out. Which also, like, shows you, it's like, that's, like, the things, like, he did, like, presumably the correct steps in, like, a desperate situation you'd have to do. But because you don't have, like, the knowledge of the people who actually live and, like, have built a culture there, you just fucking die because nature wants to kill you.
So was it like he did the thing with his mouth and he's like, my mouth isn't numb. I'm good to just eat this whole thing now.
I think he either ate like a handful of them or he like boiled them first, something along the lines. But it's not like he went to town. But mushrooms will also fuck you up.
Oh yeah,
famously.
If it's the wrong mushroom, it'll.
And let me tell you, it was the wrong mushroom. It's fucking always white people. And I think that's not just because Discovery's racist and only has crazy white people. It's because...
The fly agaric family has staked out a claim on this log for generations. And then you come in.
We're just outside Cairo, surviving in a tent. There's people in the background. They're playing with water. How do we live here? We're so afraid and naked.
Have you made a joke about Cairo? Have you seen the video where it's like someone taking a video of one of the Great Pyramids of Giza and like tourists are like, wow, like climbing up the side or whatever, and then the cameraman just pans like 45 degrees in its suburb, like 200 meters away.
That's a good picture, is the overhead shot, which is like one side of the pyramids, it's the actual desert, and the other side is a giant fucking city, which I imagine, that place rakes in a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's why public works projects, man, they're underrated. That has been providing local funds for centuries.
Back in elementary school, they were initially teaching us about, like, the Great Depression, and they were like, Herbert Hoover tried to do some public works projects, like having people build a statue of bacon somewhere, because you employ some artists. And it's like, that's very good, but it's also phrased as like,
do you think it was
ineffectual.
Thick or thin?
I think it's a thick slice of bacon.
It had to have been, because that's his applewood smoke, too.
Oh, yeah. He's an Iowa boy, too. Herbert Hoover.
Yeah, that's really feathering your cap. We have the guy who started a dam and Captain Kirk. Not William Shatner. You have specifically the fictional character.
Captain James T. Kirk. Tiberius.
Yes. I've decided, Kirk, a decree, if you will. I'm never going to eat again. I'm done. I don't need it. I think sitting right here, I think I've evolved past the need for it. All it does is I have to spend money on it. I eat too much of it, and then I don't like the way I look. And I think I could just survive with what I got. Write it out.
Write it out. Uh-huh. Write it out. I'm writing it down.
Literally writing it down.
I'm writing it down.
Eating
You
it.
want to read what that says, Brent?
Eating. It says eating disorder. Hey, you're not allowed to. Oh shit! I really spiked on that one. No, you're not. That's gonna be bad for the editing. No, you're not allowed to diagnose that. You're not a professional. All you do is live with me. And you watch my habits.
No, I did have a similar thought earlier today where I was very hungry about when I went on my afternoon break. And then I came back from my break and I was still hungry, but I was like, you know what? If I don't eat, eventually I will wither away and not have to answer telephone calls.
See, now that's just depression. What we have is that we both don't want to eat, but for different reasons. I want to do it so I can keep living. You want to do it so you can stop it. It's both going to result in the same thing. Yeah, so no, I'll let you know how it goes. So next week, next podcast, expect a radically different brand.
He's gonna be fucking fried out of his gourd.
I'm gonna be the grandma from
SpongeBob.
Be like, chocolate!
Yeah,
chocolate.
I'm gonna be making conversation with him like, so I had an idea for what to talk about, and he's just gonna go, turkey leg. And I'm gonna go, what? And he's like, you are my co-host, turkey leg.
No. Sorry, I flashed back to 2005. I had a fugue. I had a lack of vitamin fugue. There's some joke there about a chicken breast and being trans. I felt like there was something in there. I just lost it.
Did you know that...
Leave a comment below with this joke with those two phrases.
Did you know that the silicone inserts that you put in bras to push you up a cup size are called chicken cutlets?
What the fuck was it?
Because they are very similar in consistency to like a chicken cutlet. So they're just referred to as like a cutlet.
No, you said inside the bra. Is it like literally?
So not inside push-up bras. That would create an uncomfortable like water bra scenario. Those do exist. I am a repository of knowledge on issues that if you had asked me back before I knew what this meant.
Suddenly, that's right. I had all this knowledge before I realized I was trans. That's weird.
Normal.
Anyway, I guess I won't reflect on that at all. That doesn't seem like it needs any further analysis.
Yeah, but it's like, you can actually go to, like, any grocery store and buy chicken cutlets off the shelf. Just kidding. But, like, yeah, if you go to Walmart, they will have, like, an insert. And it's, just, like, this little, like, fabric pouch. And on the inside is a plastic bag with just some, like, silicone in it. And it kind of, like, it moves around a little when you squeeze it because, you know, it's, like, a fluid. Ultimately, but you put it between your breast and the bra, and it just creates like an extra half-inch of thickness down at the bottom, and it tapers out as it goes up, but it gives the appearance of having gone up a cup size.
Dude, sweet. When we get universal health care, should get everyone that. Everyone.
Well, I mean, it could be considered universal health care if your sense of health care is like mental health and, you know, gender affirming scenarios.
Everything is health care. Everything in the grocery store is gonna be free. Eating is important.
Yeah.
And water, shelter, everything. Mm-hmm. Everything is gonna
clothing. Yes. Clothing that you feel comfortable in, access to gyms so you can exercise.
Sweet road trips with friends with music montages for mental health. That's going to be covered in universal healthcare.
That should be covered.
That's going to happen. When they play Holiday Road in the background and Chevy Chase looks at a hot woman, driving beside him and he almost crashes into a semi, that's legally covered by healthcare.
There was one post that I read that I really enjoyed, and it was like someone saying essentially that yeah.
Are we living in Texas? Our lights are flickering. Is this it? Is this the end?
Icicle.
Take Jesus. Take me out. Do it, you cowards.
Yeah. But the post is essentially like
flickering.
just this person saying, "Oh my God."
I told you to put away that Ouija board.
It's getting worse.
I said it was could be nothing but trouble.
But yeah, it's like this person in the post is like, when you turn like 20 and until you turn 25, you shouldn't be like required to work. You should receive a stipend and you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can like go cross country, you can hang out with friends, you can do stupid stuff, which everyone should be allowed to do stupid stuff. You can break a couple laws here and there as long as they're not like super bad. You know, like trespassing, for example. You can do that. Because like that should be a fundamental part of human experience. And you either do it in high school or college. And if you can't do it because you're required to work to support yourself or your family,
I agree with you on having more opportunities to make that happen, or like some version of that. But 5 years of it, I don't even think that would be good for you. Like having like basically, I mean that sort of thing. Like that's gonna turn regular people into the mentality of like billionaires, where nothing matters and you're disconnected from like actual. The problems and connections of society, like not being...
I mean, it's not, like, required by any means, but, like, you should be able to pursue art or to take so many different disparate college classes to, like, get an idea of what exists in the world.
Right.
You know, go to a national park or several and just, like... go hiking, and then on your 5th trip to a different national park, that's when you're hit with the realization that, oh my God, the world is actually, like, beautiful.
Right, but I'm still a believer in, like, 100% employment, because we're very far away from creating robots to do all of the work for us. Yeah. So there's, like, there's a lot of jobs that need done everywhere for the betterment of all. And at 22, you're squishy and ripe. So, you get out there, you do it. This is your prime.
And that would be another thing,
society needs to take some of your work juices.
Yes. And that would be another thing, too. Being able to, like, volunteer or to be hired to do, like, to help build a railroad, like a high-speed railroad connecting two cities.
And all of this, too, working and then taking time off in a society that doesn't look like ours, where you're not doing it because you're on the edge of survival. You're doing it, like, better the self.
Yeah.
So your relationship with work, too, would be entirely different from
where, like, you have a strong union job and you get 5 weeks vacation, 3 of which are paid. Something like that.
Jesus Christ. I work with, so this is my favorite thing, is I have like an identical job to a French counterpart, but that French counterpart is obviously in a union. So they get 6 weeks paid vacation. And Kirk, in an ideal universe, because we're so beaten down in Americans, Kirk's ideal platonic worker, 3 weeks paid vacation. My grandpa was in a union 50 years ago, and he got 6 weeks paid vacation. He has a funny story where he joined. So I'm not gonna say where he worked, but he worked a good union job in Rockford.
Union job.
He worked a good union job in Rockford, and it was like the height, and he had some good shit. And I think it was right around the 80s, like the cutbacks eventually started, like the slow withering away of benefits, but he was still grandfathered into the original contracts, so he was still pulling in like 6 weeks paid vacation, and the other people were like complaining about it at work, and he went up to them and said, well, why don't you just give my plan a chance about all this? And they looked at him and went, well, fine, what's your plan? He said, well, the plan where we just don't talk about it.
The real plan should be...
Jesus Christ, you fucking union, you can't even laugh. He was a comment against the other...
Stronger unions!
That was a comment against the other workers. That's not funny. I'm triggered.
No, it's fine. It's fine. There's times where it's like, I won't speak ill of my coworkers. Like, if a manager says, what can you say about, like, what someone else said in the chat? I'm gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But, no, I'm okay throwing them under the bus with, like, completely inconsequential, like, oh my god, that's a call. I don't want to take that call. Please don't let me take that call. Okay, it timed out. Nice. It goes to someone else in my department. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, he also got to go on strike more times than we ever will, so...
Yeah. Unless one time I was doing deliveries.
Unless software engineers suddenly become a part of the UAW for no reason. I'm kind of fucked.
Yeah. One time I was making deliveries for my retail job, and I was driving a company van past a place where there's like 2 construction workers striking. And part of me wanted to stop and be like, hey, I really enjoy you guys. I like what you're doing.
Give me a hard helmet. I'm joining the picket.
I was like, that did cross my mind, but I was like, I kind of need this job.
Nice. I saw that they had one place I was driving by recently, they had the Ratmobile out, which I fucking love.
I love Scabby.
Yeah, and that's when they have basically an inflatable rat outside their picket line, because all the scabs crossing. That's good shit.
Hey, if I remember correctly, Scabby technically is not covered by the freedom of speech protections of workers.
Wow, fucking shocker.
Yeah, I believe that was a rule that was passed through under the leadership of Eugene Scalia.
The most protected U.S. citizen, famously, is the scab. He has more rights than any of us.
The scabs crawling and the scabs crawl out. Detective Stabler is coming home, baby.
I mean, I am pretty... So Detective Stabler is a detective on SVU.
SVU was a show that I really liked as a young kid, and I haven't watched it in 8 years, but I'm still partial to it.
Except Detective Stabler at this point left the show. That might have been like 9 years ago at this point.
Oh yeah, no, it was it was a long time ago.
We're getting old.
Yeah.
That, like, when we saw it, that he's coming back as a commercial, we freaked out.
On April 1st, though.
That's not...
Yeah. But no, Stabler was, like... He's one of those cops portrayed who has, like, a moral code. And his moral code is sexual assault is wrong, and I will pursue them beyond the extent of the law.
But sometimes he's got to go down with a little force to catch the bad guy.
Yeah, and I believe that's why his character was written off how he was written off the show, is he did something extrajudicially. And then they were like, we can't have that, you're a cop. You have to operate within the law, like the New York PD is well known for doing.
Yeah. Only on NBC. Copaganda. Every year since whenever Law & Order first came out.
The probably 80s, I think.
Something
the original Law & Order.
Yeah.
And then Detective Munch.
Name. Yes, the longest running one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit too. Dick Wolf. Now that's a fucking name. Do you think that man was born with it? Because I feel like you're just kind of graced with it. Or his mom had the last name Wolf and said, "Watch out! Here comes Dick."
Isn't one of the Marxist professors or doctors like Richard Wolff? Spelled differently. It's not WOLF. But he is also technically Dr. Dick Wolf.
Dr. Dick Wolf. Again, there's some sort of Marx porn name pun there. Leave a comment below with your idea.
Yes.
That's okay, so that's 2 different joke challenges. We're outsourcing the comedy to the comment section.
Thank goodness.
It's way cheaper.
We're like, 8 episodes in? This stuff's too hard. Making jokes.
Yeah.
And then,
TLC. Cheapskates. That's a great show. If anyone listening has never watched it, that's a TLC classic. That's like when people
I wash off my dental floss and use it 18 times before I throw it away.
No, or the person who doesn't buy dental floss, they use their hair, and then they use their hair and put it on like a drying rope and like dry it off to like reuse it. That's good shit.
It's disgusting.
I like especially like I love the beaten down women in the show who are married like fucking psychopaths. And he hasn't taken her out on a date in like 5 years.
And he finally says, fine, I'll take you off on a date. So what he does is he goes to do errands. He like drops off mail at the post office with her. And then he goes to the cheapest diner and he's like, please order off the $1 menu. And then for dessert, they go to an ice cream shack. And he just goes, I'd like to try this flavor. So he gets a little cup. And then he's like, I want to try this flavor and this flavor. And he gets a little cup with all of the flavors. And then he's like, all right, thank you. And he leaves.
I was saying the guy who took his wife to a matinee movie theater, which I'm sure cost like $5. And
he got took in the bag from previous.
Yeah, went into the trash, rinsed it out, went up to the 16-year-old working there, who obviously knew he didn't buy it because no one's at the movie theater right now. It's only him and his wife, but filled it up with popcorn anyway, and he gave it to his wife. And she was like, oh, thank you. Like, I can't believe you spent money on movie theater popcorn. And it's like, if your fucking man has taken you out to the movie theater once in 8 years and made you drink trash like Coke, what the fuck? Like, they got battered down somewhere in their lives where they thought that was their resting level. It's pretty great. You should watch it. You can really see the depths of humanity. I got high with my sister this weekend, and we were chatting about our childhood, which was pretty great because I'd never gotten high with my sister before. And she told me some... Well, okay, I got high with my sister before, but we were like chatting about it. So, okay, so it was the first time
chatting about Funhouse.
No, that's true. Yeah, okay, so me and my sister did get high, but we talked about Funhouse. This time we talked about our childhood. Very different. It was a very nice bonding moment.
Was she born in at the end of the good era, or like
no? Her life has always been shit. Oh. I love you, Alex. No, she was telling me stories where, like, growing up, like, when I was, like, in middle school and high school, she's, like, 6 years older than me. And I thought she was, like, cool in the way, you know, like, maybe your older sister is. I thought she was, you know, a pretty alright person. But then she was telling me some stories. I'm like, oh, my God, she was actually, like, cool. And I would have, like, fucking bragged about her to everyone. She, she's scrappy. I was telling Kirk this before, but she's a fucking fighter. And she was at this wing festival, and she just entered like a wing eating contest, tried different like hot sauces and stuff, and she walked through the gates with her friend, and this like, you know, gross older guy started hitting on her and just saying shit to her, and she just kept brushing him off and walked away. And then this big old woman ran up to her and started getting in her face about how she was like talking to her man and how she needs to get her own and like back the fuck off. And Alex is like, she's like, okay, I'm leaving. I don't care. And she's walking away. And so she turns around from this woman, and then the woman punches my sister in the back of the head. And then apparently like my sister's eyes just went wild. Like her friend was like, uh-oh. And my sister immediately turns around and throat punches her, and the woman makes a and fucking tumbles to the ground, and she just walks away like from a fucking explosion. And she was meeting up with two other friends at the festival, and they were like, yeah, we were looking for you, and we just saw you in a crowd walking away from a body. And she's like, yeah, that's about right. Then they went to the festival. She did shit like, because people would just like, you know, being a woman in society, you just, you know, some people go too far and you gotta fucking throat punch their ass. Yeah, so she's pretty fucking cool. So listening to that story high and going like, that's what you were doing? She's like, yeah. Oh, then she didn't really break the rules too much growing up because we were nerdy and nice. But one of the times she said, it was like senior skip day or something along those lines. and she wanted to go to Six Flags with her friends. And she probably could have just, went on her own, like, with her 3 other friends. It would have been fine. But she was like, no, I'll take a step further. So she got her teacher that she always like TA'd for and helped in the class to sign a field trip permission slip to create a field trip to Six Flags and create like 3 others. So my sister gave it out to all her friends, and all their parents signed it, gave money for the Six Flags ticket, gave money for the lunch and dinner, and like enough for gas. And my sister even got my mom to sign it and got like money. And so all of her and her friends like went to like Six Flags is an amusement park, if you've never heard of it. And they just were out there all day, and they just scammed like their parents out of like $60. And I was like, as soon as she told me that, I'm like, I remember you saying you got to go to Six Flags for high school. And she's like, yeah, just, I don't know, maybe they don't do it anymore. And she had never told her parents she did that. And it's like, I mean, it was just like a cute thing, like out of a movie. But I'm like, I didn't even do anything like that. Like, that's a great story.
My senior skip day, I ruined a really good thing. Technically, I didn't ruin it. Doug ruined it.
A relationship?
No.
Oh.
There was a building constructed at the high school for storage of theater props. And we had kind of set it up to... We had a section with some old props that were like a kitchen counter and like a couch. And we... some of the older techies had set it up to be like a little movie theater. And on senior skip day, I was just like, all right, I'm skipping, but I'm doing theater work. And by theater work, I meant I'm going in there and I'm watching movies all day. And Doug was also skipping, and he was doing that as well. And Doug had been explicitly told by the band director, I know it's senior skip day, but you have to come in for rehearsal. And Doug was like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. So Doug was with me, going back and forth to get food and go in and watch a movie and everything. We entered and exited during the band rehearsal that Doug was supposed to be a part of. And then, the band director came out, like, as we were watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And he just looked at us on the couch. He looked at the movie, and then he just turns around and closes the door. And pretty instantly, we were like, well, fuck.
What, you abandoned the position?
So
senior skip day, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
Just
well,
hold
they came back later with school officials to investigate the situation. So yeah,
the
my
crime
apologies.
of watching cinema.
My apologies to the other people in the theater department. Although in my defense, it was going to happen anyway. And also, it wasn't my fault.
Well, you got yours, so fuck off. That's the billionaire attitude, Kirk, if I've ever heard of it. You just got canceled.
Here's the thing. All it takes is like a year and a half. And then you can start doing it again. You just have...
Not your problem, because you
it's not
went
my problem.
in, you
I was a
burned
senior. I left.
You burned the forest, the waste, or getting caught was your externality, and you left the forest with all the oil.
No, here's the thing.
And they were left to pick up the pieces.
I made them more creative. They found new places elsewhere in the theater to set up their illicit activities. So you know what?
So, it breeds innovation.
Mm-hmm.
True capitalist.
But all you need to do to get away with things like that, and I'm not going into the Bohemian Fire Drill. I read too many of the Bohemian Fire Drill, which is you walk into a place like you own the situation and you just take whatever you want because they go, well, he showed up in a hard hat and a high-vis jacket. I assumed he was supposed to go into the secure area and pull out a server. No, but all I need to do is just interact with people, be nice enough, they grow to like me, and then they grow to just tolerate whatever I do. I did that.
Like a malignant tumor.
No.
Just always there,
because,
eternal.
No, because I believe you made this comment about other people in college. Is just like people in general were like, oh yeah, he's like a decent person, an enigma, And that's what I did in high school. People knew me as like a good student, a hard worker.
How'd you pull that first one off? Did you lie to them?
No, I showed up and I actually showed interest in class, and it was like I actually had a couple teachers here and there say like it's a real shame that you don't get your homework done because it would be so good if you did. But no, you show up, you take an interest, you put actual effort into the homework you do get done. And then by that point, they already know you as like you're a good kid. You just make mistakes, and we're going to let you catch up on 6 weeks of homework at the very end of term.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't you and Doug like almost not graduate high school?
Yes. Technically, I had to pass one of like 4 classes, and I think Doug had to pass significantly more. And then Emmett had to pass all of them or else he would not advance to be a senior.
Pretty funny.
Emmett is Nega Brent, the complete opposite of Brent.
Yeah, apparently Emmett was one of Kirk and Doug's friends from high school, and I've only heard like stories about him.
He's a good kid.
I think you show. I don't think that's true by the stories you told me. But basically, yeah, it's like we have a weird like Venn diagram of interests, but then like how we react. It's very Shadow Linky, and I'm afraid if I were to ever meet Emmett, like the universe would implode. Because what really started it too is I was like, as the similarities were growing, I'm like. My mom, before Brent, she tried to name me Emmett. Dun dun dun. So it's like that. It's like in spoilers for BioShock Infinite. It's like that scene when Booker got drowned. It's like that was the fork in the road. If I was going to become Brent or Comstock. Comstock being Emmett.
Emmett is also a child of divorce.
Dude, hell yeah. Never mind. We should hang out. It's cool. You get double the Christmas presents. Wishes to say too. Nah.
No, it's so yeah, I believe I said there's kind of like a tier based off what I noticed from like high school, and it's in terms of like how well teachers like you if you're like a procrastinator who does nothing. And I'm near the top and Doug's maybe around the middle because every teacher seemed to like me. With Doug it was maybe 50-50. And with Emmett, any teacher that he worked with just grew to dislike him.
Yeah, Doug can be a bit of a contrarian. I think everybody's parents should get divorced. I think it would be good. I think it would build character. I think you would, learn how to deal with things. That's going to be a new national policy, along with the universal health care that covers everything. Mandatory divorces. It's not going to be popular, but those are the compromises you need to make to get bills passed.
How often? Every 3 years, 5 years?
Oh, well, first-time offenders, it's a little less. And then, if you get really married again, it's like first time, 10 years. Second time, you have to get divorced in 5 years, 2.5 years, a year. And it's just like... Until it's like you go in the courthouse, get married, and then come out divorced, like a revolving door.
Like a Monty Python sketch.
That's right. Congratulations, you're divorced.
Oh, thank you very much. Now right over this way.
Dude, tax season is going to be a bitch. They're not going to know what to do. That's how we're going to lower the taxes in the middle classes. Everyone's just going to get a tax write-off for getting a divorce.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, it'd be so cool. Shout out to all those children of divorce. Where are my homies at? Leave a comment below. So you have 3 comments to make, 2 jokes, and to say how much you like divorce. Keep that in mind. Are you writing these down? There's a quiz at the end of the podcast.
You see, Aaron took educator courses, so he's really good at writing tests.
No, he's not. No, that dumb bitch. He wrote a paper about the Robert Taylor homes. He could have been a teacher.
That reminds me
Hope he listens to it.
That reminds me of the of my 1960s course in college, which was very fun. Loved the professor. But he had us do like you brought in 10 questions for a test, and then everyone took the test. And thank God I'm just really good at tests with multiple choice answers, because I can
Which is funny
process
for
of
how
elimination
indecisive
like none
you are.
other.
I'm surprised that would be one of your strengths, then.
Well, it's because it's like facts. It's not I have to make like a decision that affects me.
But what is
it's just like I have 4
decision
choices. 2 of those are very wrong, and 1 is slightly more wrong than the other, so it's B. And it reminds me of just like I remember. So we didn't get our own questions. That would be too easy.
How Kurt got a Bachelor of Arts 2015 to 2019. It has to be B.
But no, I got someone else's, and it was just like really obscure, hyper-specific questions, and I'm like, thank God, like the individual sections are curved, because this would be a nightmare otherwise. Like,
everything was Nixon.
And I've got more to talk about after the recording stops.
Oh boy.
Regarding that, and
speaking of Nixon, a good bit in our friend group is how much I fucking love Richard Nixon. And at this point, I'm starting to lose track if it's irony. I don't think it is anymore. I think I now just like Richard Nixon. Milton Friedman once described Richard Nixon as the biggest socialist to ever live. And that alone puts you in a category for me. If Milton Friedman hates you, you must have done something right. Well, which that was just he took us off the gold standard. And Milton Friedman cried because his market signals. That fucking made up astrology bullshit.
Well,
hang on. I saw somebody on the I saw someone deride the assessment that economics is just astrology for men, because that's what it is. Astrology matters the same amount in determining things as economics. And somebody was like, can you believe somebody would say that? It's like, no, that's about right on the money. And Milton Friedman deserves to be sad in the afterlife.
I once drew a comparison to that, and then I was by a socialist, mind you, said what? You don't believe that there are fundamental laws in economics, like not a law, but like supply and demand and other factors that like influence
blowjob.
And I was like, no, I definitely agree that there's like, stuff that can be studied there, like the constants in certain systems, but like in general, like macroeconomics is a bunch of bullshit, and microeconomics is getting really nitty gritty.
Listen, because Venus and Saturn are interlining on a full moon, that means your insulin is $500 a month minimum. That's what that means. Sorry.
And because market conditions in the Kamchatka Oblast in Russia are less than subpar, you're going to have a great day on Monday and meet the love of your life in 2 years.
Perhaps buy a lottery ticket. Your fortunes have increased. Your lucky number.
Your lucky number is 12, 14,
Goldman
and 62.
Sachs.
Your lucky stock is Apple.
Dude, GameStop rallied. It's like all the way back up to like 260. They came back for us because, nice. 2 roommates with a podcast, aka me, bought GameStop. But it climbed back up and it rescued its brethren. Leave no man behind, the stock market famously says. No, it's making people... See, the reason... or why I know I'm happy about it is because it's making people on CNBC sad, and they're saying it's not real and about how this is like, bad for stock market or some bullshit. And the fact that they're upset in a similar way Richard Nixon made Milton Friedman sad, I know it's a good thing. Look at me, not by my friends, but by the enemies I have made. CNBC.
So this popped in my head. I unfortunately don't have a way to keep riffing on this.
What do you? I could keep going. We were just on Nixon.
Well, yeah,
I could talk about Richard
I do
Nixon.
want to say this quick. Although the thing I was going to say about Richard Nixon earlier isn't part of the reason also because he showed up and he's like, unless it's about the Vietnam War, I don't care.
Yeah, and that's how you get like the EPA got made. Yeah. He's like, sure, fine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever.
Greatest...
Will it get those yuppies off my back while I'm bombing Cambodia?
That's damn straight. The greatest eco-warrior of our time, Richard Nixon.
Chaining himself to trees.
That's right. Or he hated everyone at Harvard and Yale. He hated East Coast elites. I love it. There's a lot of intersection between Brent and Nixon. So what were you gonna say?
Yeah, the thing that popped in my head is I was thinking about how many topics we've covered in the past 10 minutes alone, because we got on a really good topic where we could just riff and bring up new things. And I was like, for a listener that tunes out, one of the three, it's got to be pretty confusing to tune out and then come back in and be like, how did we get here?
Why would you stop the riff if you're just going to talk about the riff?
This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. How did we all get here?
That was it? It was a Talking Heads joke?
No, because that is the favorite thing that I actually love about having conversations with friends.
Is that it always goes back to Talking Heads?
Well, because it goes off on tangents. And it's like we start talking about one thing, and then it just gradually changes.
That's how conversations between good friends happen. Now let it continue.
Yeah. Well, okay, but media depicts an unrealistic expectation, which is we need to talk about a sustained topic for a long time.
I want to get off this topic.
Anyway, Richard Nixon looked at a river on fire, and he said, we should probably stop that. That looks bad for PR.
Sir, Cleveland has been on fire for a week.
Wait, a river was on fire? Yes, sir. But it's water. Yes, sir. We should probably figure out why it was on fire. Well, it was mostly not water.
How the love started is that Nixon was famously a very stuffy guy, would wear a suit and tie around his house. He wasn't a jovial fellow, and I think somebody was like, if you could pick one historical figure to go on a road trip with, who would it be? And I was thinking on it. I was like, Nixon, because I want to know so much. He could tell me so much CIA shit we were doing in the 60s. Tell me about the Vietnam War and how that went so well for us. There's just a lot of fun shit, and also...
And all you gotta do is bluff. Be like, dude, it's 2020. It's long since declassified. I just want an inside look.
I don't think in this scenario where Nixon has come back to life and is now in my passenger seat, I have to coerce information out of him. I just roll with he just tells me shit.
No, you have to drag him into a gas station bathroom and beat him with the wrench until he gives you some answers.
Him just being in a car, uncomfortable, I make a bunch of dumb jokes, and he hates having to be next to me. That would just be so great, and I want it. So, Nixon, if you're listening out there in the afterlife, you know where I am, and I want you.
Nixon, come back. Ooh.
You can blame it all on Kissinger. I was wrong.
You've heard this anecdote.
Kissinger is my piece of shit representative.
So you've heard this anecdote before, but in the 1960s class, in the 1960s class, our professor gave us an anecdote about Richard Nixon, and he was one of Nixon's chief of staff was with him when and they're traveling in a motorcade, and one of the officers on a motorcycle hits a pebble, skids out, is on the ground, and is hurt bad enough they have to call an ambulance. So they're like, oh, while we're here, President, all you have to do is get out and get down and talk with him and show some compassion, and it's a prime photo and a news story, and it'll get us 3 points. But he was he had to be coerced into it. And finally, he gets out. He walks up to this, guy who's lying on the ground in pain, probably with the broken leg. And Richard Nixon, kind of looks at the ground, and then he slowly gets down on one knee very awkwardly, and he leans in a little, and he goes, so, do you have any kids?
Classic. Classic Nixon.
Just a stuffy guy, can't make small talk. He's like me.
The Venn diagram between Kirk and Nixon.
And Richard Nixon. It's a circle. I would do Watergate.
Okay, so what I was going to remember is Bohemian Grove, which is a real life thing where, you know how, people talk about the satanic billionaire pedophiles that consume children. That's Bohemian Grove, which is an actual thing where just basically rich people and politicians go to hang out in a forest, and it's just what you'd expect. and Nixon was on tape saying it was the most F-slurriest thing he had ever been to. And just him going to like a bunch of... Him going to a fucking billionaire backslapping account where they're talking about how many like death squads they've sent in Colombia, and him hating every second of it because they're all a bunch of twats. That's relatable. There's an intersection.
Mm-hmm. While we're also on the topic of Richard Nixon and slightly Henry Kissinger. It reminded me of this tweet by Karen Lyons, and it's Nixon. And so if it is good, then it slaps or whips. Kissinger. It also bops, sir. And does it flog or punch? No. So this is not sadomasochism. No, sir. But it is a perversion of language, certainly. Nixon. Disgraceful.
Classic. Guys, see... That's when war criminals were war criminals. Men were men, women were men, children were men. Everyone was a man, and everyone was bombing Cambodia illegally. And that's the way we liked it. Hey, let's call it there.
All right.
Short one. Let's get out of here. Let's leave them wanting more with our sweet-ass Nixon talk.
Next time, more Nixon stories.
Most likely. Actually, moving forward, this will be a Nixon podcast. This will be two Nixons with a Nixon.
Two Nixons with a Nixon.
Hi, I'm Nixon. My pronouns are...
I'm having a jowl movement.
Nixon's back, baby! Yeah. Anyway, follow us at Twitter at 2RoommatesPod. Subscribe to the Patreon, where we will definitely make an actual bonus episode soon. It's coming. Probably. It's coming.
We'll find a topic, and then we'll focus around it.
Or leave comments on YouTube or wherever you're getting this for topics for us to talk about. There's 4 different comments you need to make. I forgot the first 3, but I just know we're at 4. So leave a...
Didn't we get our first comment on a video?
Yeah, it was for Russian nudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, leave a comment with what you want us to talk about in a bonus episode.
It's really weird. I opened that link and now my phone is bricked.
And they say pay him in bitcoins. I don't know what he's talking about. I just want to see the nice Russian gals.
Bitcoin. What about?
Never heard of her.
America coin. Pennies.
Yeah, this is why we should have ended. All right, bye.
You can cut it.